Okay, should be live. Didn't really have a topic for tonight, and I didn't have anything prepared to do for cooking on the wood stove because I thought I was going to end up working. I was supposed to work midnight tonight, but later on in the afternoon, one of my coworkers called and asked if he could trade shifts with me, and he's going to work. He's working afternoons this week, and I'm working midnights. He decided the best thing for us would be for him to work his afternoon shift and then do a double shift and work my midnight shift tonight. And then tomorrow I'll come in early and do the same thing, work both shifts because we're getting a blizzard. It's starting to snow now already. And we're supposed to get maybe around here 6 to 8 inches of snow tonight. And then it'll let up during the day tomorrow. And tomorrow night we're supposed to get another 1.5 foot or so. So, anywhere from 18 to 30 inches, what they're figuring for what we're going to get. So we decided that it'd be best that instead of having to drive through a blizzard in the middle of the night, we're still going to end up driving home in the blizzard, but a little easier to do it in the daylight for both of us. So didn't have to work tonight, which is kind of nice, but I didn't plan on really doing anything, too much for the show tonight. Got an idea for something I might want to cook, but I'll have to do a little test batch on that first, see how it turns out. Anyhow, I don't really have a whole lot of topics I was going to go over, so just kind of go through the comments, say hi to everybody. Might talk about chickens. We'll see. Cynthia Wesley, Debbie, Honey Badger, nice to see you guys. Randy Duffy and Dan, always good. MN Encourager, good evening from Milwaukee. You guys are going to miss the worst of all this. You might get some rain and snow and sleet, but you won't get the feet of snow. Won't catch you in a boat. Been there, done that with hubby. No boat trumped over last fishing stuff that day. Well, you got to be careful in boats. You don't know what tonight's episode's going to be about. It's going to be about an hour, is what I'm figuring. Let's see, Dan said hi to Dan R.T. Scott. Howdy. Cynthia again. And Sanudo, Bookworm. Good to see you guys. Raymond. Natchez River Catfishing. Folks, maybe. I also got an idea I wanted to run by you guys for the next coming weeks. Rick Green, good to see you. Let's see, Johnny Worming, your chicken started laying again. Yeah, a lot of people have been having problems with their chickens. They quit laying over the winter. Now, to a big degree, that's normal. But a lot of people had even more so, they completely quit laying a bit earlier than they normally would have. And, of course, there's always a embarrassingly large portion of our population when anything doesn't work out exactly the way they think it should. It must be because they are conspiring against them and doing something nefarious. There's a lot of people saying, well, they must be putting something in the food to make chickens quit laying. Well, no, they're not. I think there's actually three different factors at work. Because, normally chickens don't lay very many eggs during the wintertime. The days are short. If you put lights in your chicken coop, they'll keep right on laying. But the shorter days means they lay a lot less eggs. But like I said, a lot of people have had their chickens, they pretty much quit entirely in October, November, a bit before they would naturally slow down. Now, part of the problem is a lot of people got into having chickens and raising their own eggs about 1.5 to 2 years ago. The natural life cycle of a laying hen, they don't start laying until they're around 8 or 10 months old. And that usually get your chickens in the spring. That means they'll start laying in the fall, late fall, early winter. When a hen first starts laying, she'll lay tons of eggs. Just keep right on going. Doesn't matter what season it is. For about the first 6 or 7 months, she'll lay to beat hell, and then she'll start slowing down to where lay 1, 2 eggs a day, 3, kind of depends. And then they'll get to be more seasonal. The following winter, they'll start laying maybe one egg a day, maybe every other day, maybe every 2 or 3 days. And that's perfectly normal. So a lot of people who started with chickens, a year and a half, 2 years ago, their chickens are out of that initial rush of eggs for the first 6 months. They had eggs all last winter. Now all of a sudden they can't figure out, well, I'm not getting any eggs this year. Well, it's because that's how chickens work. Another problem that could be doing it, a lot of people notice that if they switch their feed, their chickens start laying again, even though it's still winter. The days are getting longer and chickens will naturally kind of pick up now. But a lot of people did this back in December when it was, the darkest part of the winter. And I think a good part of that problem might be a lot of them were using big brand name feeds like you would get at Tractor Supply, places like that. And the big feed companies, of course, want to maximize their profits, and they'll buy the grain and stuff that is sold for feed purposes as lower quality. We've had a few bad years in a row: floods, drought, floods, drought, floods, early frost, late frost. There's been a lot of problems with production. So I think what's going on with some of this, at least, is even though the feed is up to the minimum required levels for protein, fat, that sort of thing, it's just barely up to the minimum levels. It takes extra for a chicken to lay eggs. It takes a surplus of fat, protein, and sugar beyond what the chicken needs just to survive. I mean, chickens are pretty winter hardy. They're really efficient, and most breeds are pretty winter hardy. Feathers are good insulation, but even so, they need more energy in the winter than they do in the summertime. And between that and the light, that's going to slow them down as well. And I think a lot of people who had a lot of success with switching feeds is they were simply getting better feed. A lot of people focus on the protein content of the feed, and that's a big factor for laying, but they forget about the fat and the sugar. I mean, because it takes, protein, the white of the egg is basically the amniotic fluid, and that's mostly protein. The yolk is mostly fat and sugar. Plus, they need calcium for the shell and various other, vitamins and minerals. But a lot of people focus just on the protein content, and they forget about the sugar and the fat. And in the winter, even though you're giving them good feed that has plenty of protein, plenty of other things, they can only eat so much. If you give them high protein food and they get full, they still might not have enough fat and sugar in their diet to keep their energy level up and keep that little bit of extra that they need to produce an egg without it. You see what I'm saying? It's not calorie dense enough, it's not nutrient dense enough, and they fill up on something that has a lot of protein, but if they're still lacking the fat and the sugar that they need, they're not going to lay eggs. So a lot of people, what we always used to do when we had chickens, we fed them, just ground corn from the local feed mill. And beyond that, it was pretty much anything else they could catch, kill, and eat. I mean, we just let them run wild. I mean, they were more than free range. They were damn near feral chickens. But in the wintertime, we also had pigs. And when we butchered the pigs, we'd have our meat guy grind up the fat, and he'd just run it out into big bags. And there'd be like 15, 20-pound bag of ground pig fat, little bits of meat in it, to render down into lard. Well, we'd render some for lard, and the rest of it, keep it frozen. I would chunk it up into big chunks, about the size of a volleyball, and just throw one of them out in the chicken coop for the chickens to pick at. And that really made a big difference in their egg production, because they had a lot more energy, because fat is a high energy density food. So if you get more suet in their diet, get a chunk of beef suet, you know, they're like any other bird. They do like a good bit of suet in their diet, especially when they're laying eggs. And they also need a certain amount of sugar. They get most of that from the starch and the grain, so they usually do pretty good. But in the wintertime, if you can get some fruit that's going to get thrown out down at the grocery store, they love that sort of thing. They'll tear into that. You'd be amazed how fast some chickens can go through a chunk of suet. I mean, they'll just tear that right apart in a couple, 3 days sometimes. But give your chickens a little bit of extra fat, a little bit of extra sugar. Make sure they're getting good feed. If you have had problems with your chickens dropping off to nothing for production and dropping off sooner than they normally would have just because of the light, it might be a good idea to change your feed. Try and find a local feed mill, or even better if you can afford it, have your own feed ground. If you can buy a ton of corn from a local farmer, take it to the feed mill, have it ground and bagged up for you, you've got your own feed. And that's usually pretty, it can be cheaper in the long run to do that, but of course you got tons of feed sitting around to deal with. So yeah, nobody's putting anything in the chicken feed to make them quit laying and force you to buy eggs at the store for $5 a dozen, try to keep you from being self-sufficient. Chickens love to eat mice. Yeah, our chickens would kill anything. I've seen them kill snakes, mice. Found a dead skunk out in the yard, in the chicken yard once, and he had a big rip down his belly, and I'm pretty sure it was the chickens that did it to him. So, chickens are a lot more carnivorous than people give them credit for. When you see them out there scratching around, they're not just, picking up seeds. They're eating bugs, they're eating worms. Chickens do like meat. We would throw them, when we, during deer season, throw bones, a little bit of meat on them. The backbone, the way I butchered deer, I would just cut the loins out of them and quarter them up, and cut the legs right off the hips and the back, cut the ribs off, and you'd end up with a spine with a pelvis on it and some meat and scraps stuck to it. And within a couple of days, they'd have that stripped right down to bare bones. And it was kind of comical. I mean, because people talk about using pigs to get rid of a body. Chickens do a pretty good job of it too. Anyway, that's my chicken rant. Yeah, if you're having trouble with your chickens laying, it might be worth a try to switch feeds, because I think a lot of the big feed companies that sell through Tractor Supply and things like that might not be getting the best quality material to start with. A lot of the grains, there was trouble with it's standing in the field for a while. Get a big rain right when you're ready to go out and harvest, can't get in the fields because it's too muddy. Well, as it stands there past being ripe, it'll lose nutritional value. And I think they're just kind of scraping by on the quality of their feed, because there's been problems the last few years with grain supply. I live near Madison's. Friends have a few over, but right about the need to feed fat and sugar. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, they overlook that. It's the same with the person. I mean, the reason why a keto diet works is because you're going into what's called protein starvation. If you ate nothing but protein, you would eventually starve to death. Even though you had enough calories, you're not getting the fats and the sugars and the other things that you need. You'll eventually, I mean, you can die with a full belly of starvation if all you ever ate was protein. So, they need a little more balanced diet than most people really realize. Wild dog got your chickens. Now you can't have them anymore. Yeah, a lot of people have chickens in town even though you're not supposed to. Usually, you can get away with having a half a dozen hens, because hens don't make a lot of noise. Roosters start crowing, everybody's going to know you got chickens. And you don't need a rooster for hens to lay eggs. They won't be fertilized. They won't hatch out, but they'll still lay eggs even without a rooster. They'll lay more if they got a rooster around, but you can still get by with just hens. We're getting some chicks this year, first time in a few years, but we still have over a dozen old hens. Don't always feed grain, sometimes table scraps. Yeah, you gotta vary their diet a bit more. Yeah, your sister has some illegal chickens in Madison, a few over the legal limit. Yeah, they do. I mean, in fact, that was one of the big selling points when the Rural Electrification Administration was in business back in the 30s and 40s, and well, they're still around actually. But when they were trying to convince people to electrify their farms back in the olden days, that was one of the things they was one of their selling points. Put lights in your chicken coop, you'll have eggs year round, and you will. I mean, that's what commercial chicken farmers do is they have the lights on so many hours a day and off for so many hours, set on a timer. So the chickens are always laying. Let's see. I'm late. What's with the chicken talk? Just kind of rambling about chickens because actually in the Needy Homesteader, I saw one of her videos that she put out today talking about the chickens and the same thing. She was having trouble with her chickens. They stopped laying in October and she couldn't figure out why. And, she talking to different people, and even a lot of the, bigger name chicken people on YouTube were having problems with it. So there is a problem. I think the kind of the root of the problem was a lot of people are using this commercially available feeds that are just barely minimum. The chicken will be perfectly healthy, but they're not going to have that surplus that they need in order to produce eggs. That's my theory anyway. I really doubt they were putting something in the feed to make the chicken stop laying. Loved watching chickens like a hog. They'll eat almost anything. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've seen my chickens eating snakes and mice and all kinds of critters you don't normally think of chickens eating. Anyway, the idea I wanted to run past you, probably not next week, maybe the one after, soon anyway, within the next month. Uh, how would some of you like to be on the stream? I think I'll give preference to people who are channel members because I haven't done anything nice for the channel members in a while, and I really should. But anyway, I'll send out a link, and you can join the stream here, and we can talk back and forth between us. If you have a webcam you can set up, you can show off your stuff. Or if you have any questions or something, any questions about some iron that you have, if I can't answer it, I'm sure somebody in the chat can. And you can show some of your stuff off and kind of be a part of the show. Started buying eggs at Costco. They're somewhat cheaper. They've come down quite a bit here. They were up around $5 a dozen for a while, but they've come down to about $3 a dozen now. And the reason for it is because there was a big outbreak of bird flu last year. And where the price of chicken meat has come down quite a bit and is getting close to back to normal, eggs were so high because raising meat chickens, it only takes about 3 months to raise them from hatching to butchering. So over the course of 6 months, you're going to have a couple of batches run through and the supply will catch back up to normal. With a laying hen, it takes, anywhere from 6 to 10 months before they even start laying. When they do start laying, they tend to lay smaller eggs, different sized eggs. One will be big, one will be small. And it takes a lot longer to bring laying hens into production than it does just to raise birds for butchering. And when the bird flu hits a barn full of chickens, the only thing they can do is wipe out the entire flock. and take them out back and bury them. So, I mean, the prices for, chicken breast, things like that have come down quite a bit. And they came down a while ago, started to anyway. And they're getting back close to normal. Egg prices are still up, but they are coming down. And yeah, it just takes longer to recover the flocks after they get uh, wiped out with bird flu. Lived near the Milwaukee Zoo, saw some big birds out there, funny looking turkeys, till I realized they were peahens from the zoo. Yeah, guinea hens, peahens. They're kind of cool birds. Chickens even eat dog food if you leave the kennel door open. Oh yeah, they love dog food. Duck eggs are better eaten. I've never had them, so it might be. I know they're a bit bigger. Pacific Northwest Jess. Hi, how you doing? Let's see. How long will a chicken lay eggs? Uh Quite a while. I think you can get 2 or 3 years at least out of them. Sometimes longer. I don't know how long the commercial farms keep them. I'm sure they'll slow down as they get older. But we've had chickens that live 5, 6, 7 years. So it's not really, like I said, I'm not sure how long the commercial farms keep them. I know when they do, they ship them out and make soup out of them, either soup or ground chicken, because by then they're pretty tough and chewy. Duck eggs are excellent. I'll have to try it sometime. Maybe in the spring I'll go following some mallards around and see if I can get some. I gotta leave. Oh well, it's too bad. Should be back next Tuesday night. Like I said, yeah, if anybody's, let me know if you're interested in coming on the show in the next couple of weeks. Since I don't have to work tonight and it's going to be snowing and blizzarding, I think I'm going to have a little bit of bourbon. But you can show off some of the neat stuff you found, ask any questions you got. And like I said, if I can't figure out what it is, I'm sure somebody in the audience can, because we're all pretty sharp fellows. Even the women folk are sharp fellows. There you go. But yeah, it's going to be snowy and miserable. But looking at my schedule, I got to check the updated one at work, but it looks like I'll be clear on Tuesday nights for about most of March anyway, up till the end. And after that, we'll see. So, I'd like to do this probably not next week, but the week after, I think. Let me double check here and see which day was which. That's February. We got our schedule figured out for the year, but it always changes a bit here and there. Let's see. March. Well, it's Thursday. Never mind. Confused myself. And actually, I'm off the next 2 Tuesdays, so yeah, we can definitely do that. Figure on March the which date is that? March the 7th. We'll give that a shot, and have some of you folks on that want to be on March the 7th. You'll need a camera if you want to show something, but if you just want to be on the show and ask a question or comment or something like that, just a microphone will work. I'll put up the link for StreamYards. All you have to do is have your camera and your mic plugged in before you click on the link, because it makes it a lot easier. That way StreamYards will recognize everything good. Then all you do is you click on the link and it'll take you to a screen where it'll ask you to allow you to use your mic and your camera, and click yes and allow them to use your mic and your camera. And there'll be a little test thing there to see if your mic is working and your camera. And then they'll say enter studio. You enter the studio, and from there I add you to the stream. Got an egg hack for me. Take a hot skillet, hot enough to fry an egg in, rub a 5-inch circle using garlic, then crack your egg in that circle and it'll stay in that. Huh. That sounds good. You got a little bit of garlic for your egg too. I remembered. I got to write this down quick while I'm thinking of it. There's a show I was going to do next week, and something I needed from the store. Couldn't remember what the hell it was for the last hour or so, but I know now. But I ain't telling because it's going to be a surprise. I'm not tech savvy. It's real easy to join a stream. Like I said, if you got a webcam and a microphone, that's all you need, and then just click on the link and it'll walk you through it. One thing I do know, if you're trying to do it from an iPhone, you have to be in Safari, the Apple browser, and then you run it in through there. But other than that, it's just simply a matter of clicking on the link and following the instructions. But have your mic and your camera plugged in first before you try and click on any of the links. Sometimes it'll pick them up, sometimes it won't. It won't recognize it when you plug them in afterwards. So other than that, it's pretty simple. You shouldn't have too much problem. I mean, you managed to get here. It's not much of a step to get from here to actually on the stream. Yeah, garlic with eggs is a must. Yeah, a little garlic salt or garlic powder on your eggs is good. But yeah, that sounds kind of neat. I'll have to give that a try. Will a webcam work if you plug it into your Android phone? I've only done it on your computer. Well, you can do it from your computer, and your Android phone should have a built-in camera. And I'm not exactly positive about. I've done it myself a couple of times, and it's pretty simple. It's basically the same process. It'll ask you to use your if you let StreamYards use your mic and camera. So it should just be a matter of opening up YouTube on your phone and clicking the links, and it should take you to it from there. You don't have to join StreamYards or sign up for it or anything to be part of a stream. You can just just follow the links. Where if you want to broadcast using StreamYards, you have to sign up for it. But just to be on a stream, you don't need to sign up for anything. Yeah, Honey used her Android. Yeah, and I've got a real cheap Android-based phone, and I've used that to get onto streams before. And yeah, like I said, I'm pretty sure it's the same steps you do for you would do using your PC or a laptop. I have to use the link through Chrome. Yeah, that's one thing with this. See, I didn't have to use Chrome. It just went, or Chrome might be the default browser on my phone too, for that matter. They basically want to run you through, Google, which owns Android, and Chrome and all of that. Thanks. You've only been a guest on Facebook Live. Yeah, Facebook Live is actually a lot harder to deal with than StreamYards. StreamYard's pretty simple. I mean, even I can figure it out, so it's not too difficult, not too terribly difficult. I picked up 3 pieces this past Saturday, and you got a Griswold square egg skillet, and it was $35. Yeah, that's a pretty good price on those. I seen those really, the prices were kind of all over for a while, but now they seem to be kind of up. I mean, they're usually going around 60, 70, $80 sometimes. Depends. There's uh, one that has the handle coming off the corner and one that has the handle coming off the side, if I remember right. I'm not sure I can't remember what the difference is on them, but I know there's a couple of variations of the square Griswold skillets, or I might be thinking of the bigger ones too, not the little, the little small egg skillets. But yeah, I'll make a note of that so I don't forget. March 7th, we'll do kind of an open stream. I probably won't let just anybody I've never seen or heard from before in. But if you've been around here and I recognize your name, I'll let you right in. March 7th, open stream. So I don't forget what day I decided on. Got a weird question. Took one of your pans out of the live bath, put it in the electro tank, and it turned blue. Whatever happened to you? See, not a subtle blue, but almost a Ford oval blue. Most likely, what that is the pan got really overheated at some point because what to do with that piece here. Doesn't show up quite as bright as it did before. But you see that shiny part in the middle? It's got kind of a bluish tinge to it, blue and purple. It's not as bright as it was before. But that's because as you heat metal, it'll oxidize at certain temperatures. It's one of the ways you can tell how hot metal actually is. I mean, you've heard of things that are red hot. Well, before it gets to red, it'll go through several stages: yellow, blue, purple, violet. And once you're past red, it'll get white hot. But yeah, more than likely, you can see, get the light just right on it. There, you can really see it. See how blue that is down in here? And then it's kind of purplish right at the end. That's from heat, because I had this on my wood stove for a while just to see if it was going to crack, from heat stress. And yeah, that's probably what happened, is that pan got heated up pretty hot at some point, and it was covered over with crud underneath it, and it kind of protected that colored oxidation. I got a pan you're going to send. It has a crack. Can't remember if it's a Martin or a Wapak. Yeah, as soon as I find it, I'll mail it. That sounds cool. And seeing as how you've been asking so diligently for welding lessons, maybe if I get it figured out, I'll figure out that'll be one of the ones I repair. But thank you much. I always appreciate things. And I've just started getting set up. Probably I was kind of planning on doing it, working on it tomorrow at least, but we traded shifts around. Once I get shifts settled out, I'm going to start making a video restoring that meat grinder you sent me, and showing you how to resharpen the blades, because I see it on a lot of different places, people asking about hand crank meat grinders, just so they could at least have something for a backup if the power goes out and they want to grind up meat for some reason. And they're real common. You see them all over the place in secondhand stores, but most of them are uselessly dull. So practice welding maybe. Well, if it's a Wapak or a Martin, I'd probably wait until I got things figured out a little bit better so I could actually fix it. What I'm trying to figure out now, on my scrap pieces here that I broke up, is how to make just a blind crack, rather than snapping it in half. You know, I want to try and make a crack that starts here and runs out to the edge. And I haven't quite mastered it yet. I mean, I got a couple of them that I almost had cracked the way I wanted them to, and then it just broke in half. So once I figure out how to make just a crack and not a break, I can work on welding up cracks in that too. Been doing a little bit, been busy with some other projects at work, actual work related stuff. Imagine that. But as I get a chance, I'm going to do a little bit more practicing and figuring and some of the different things. Let's see, you got number 8, Red Mountain chicken fryer and lid. Love that thing. Yeah, those are nice. So the Red Mountains are really nice. I mean, BSR and Lodge were always heavier than Griswold and Wagner were. But when you get back into the older Lodge and the older BSR, the Red Mountain and the one notch and no notch Lodge, they're a lot lighter than the stuff that was made later. And I mean, a Lodge skillet from 1930 weighs about half as much as the same size one that you can buy today. I've heard that's like you blew a gun, but you're not sure. Yeah, you can still season it. I wouldn't worry about it. Shouldn't be too much of a problem. Don't you have to preheat cast before you weld? Sometimes there's a couple of different techniques, and it depends on what you're welding. For one thing, if you're stick welding, you're better off to almost always preheat it because you're going to put a lot more heat into it. But there's two basic ways. You can either preheat it or you can use as little heat as possible. I mean, you weld an inch and you stop and let it cool down completely, and then you weld another inch. And that's what I did on this, and that worked really good. I'm going to try preheating it on some of the next ones I do. But that's the two ways of doing it. Some things you can't preheat. I mean, it's either too big, too a big massive thing that you can't get. There's no practical way of heating it. And sometimes it's like if you're working on a piece of machinery or something, trying to weld a broken piece of casting on a machine, there might not be room for it to expand when you heat it. So, like I said, there's a couple of ways of doing it, and like I said, I've had a lot of luck. This is I'm MIG welding this, and I've had a lot of luck with just weld a little bit, let it cool down. I mean, cool to the it doesn't have to be room temperature cold, but just barely warm. You can hold it, and it's not going to burn you or anything. And then clean your weld off and weld another inch or so. Stick is all you had. Been looking at MIGs, but not sure when. They're handy. I mean, and especially if you do a lot of smallish repair work around your place. Welding sheet metal, you pretty much got to have a MIG welder. And it can be a bit expensive to get a tank for it if you're going to use gas with it, but you can use flux core wire, which doesn't use gas. I mean, it produces its own gas, kind of like a stick welder. The coating on a electrode for stick welding burns off and makes a gas bubble that protects the weld. Flux core MIG wire is the same thing, only the center has a filling in it that burns and produces gas. But if you're MIG welding with the flux core wire, you get a lot more spatter, and it's kind of more violent because you're burning this flux off right in the center of your pool, right in the middle of the puddle of molten metal that you got going. So it gets more spattery, and it kind of wants to blow things around. It's more violent. Where if you're using gas shielding, you have a tank of gas, argon, or whatever you need for what you're doing. That's a lot smoother and a lot more controllable. I'd like to see how I worked on the butcher block. I'm getting to that. It's on my list. I got some threaded rods for it. I got to cut some steel plates for around the bolts on it. So you got a little bit bigger area that gets clamped when you tighten down the nuts on the bolts. The thing I was explaining about the color of the hot iron, did I miss something here? But yeah, you should be able to season that up and use it pretty much normally, even though it's blue blued from the heat. I've heard it's like you blued a gun, but I'm not sure. Yeah, I mean, if you're getting to where you're getting a kind of a straw yellow or blue color on your cast iron, yeah, it's been heated pretty fairly hot. I forget the exact temperature ranges offhand. I used to know it. It usually starts off more of a violet, purplish, then it goes into the blue and lighter blues, and then it starts getting a dull red, and then bright red. Then you're red hot. And if you get a pan red hot, you've really gotten out of hand. Miller or Hobart MIG welders, what you want? Yeah, I've got a Hobart. I've had it for probably 8 years now, 8 or 9 years, for a while, and I'm pretty happy with it. Like I said, I'm finally going to get around to setting up for gas. I've been using just flux core wire because that's all I really need for most of the stuff I use it for. But for welding the iron, I think I definitely want to do it with gas because it's a lot smoother, a lot more controllable than the flux core. Not that flux core is going to blow stuff all over the place, but it's, like I said, it's a little more violent kind of an arc, a little more sputtery. You get a lot more spatter, little BBs floating around. Yeah, it can also be seen on motorcycle side pipes. Yeah, chrome does. It really shows up on chrome. Chrome or stainless steel, it will too. But each color has a corresponding heat range. If it turns this color, it's been heated to this many degrees. And like I said, I used to know it, but I can't remember what they were. I saw one of the Facebook pages about some enameled BSR pans. Beautiful. Yeah, I have two enameled BSR pans. One's a saucepan, like a 2-quart deep saucepan, and the other one is a chicken fryer that used to belong to my mother-in-law. And they're both that kind of olive green. But I've seen some speckled BSR. It was yellow with can't remember, brown, I think, speckles in it. Really pretty, and a couple of them are sets or like 3 or 4 pans with lids. They went for quite a bit of money. Not a huge amount of money, but more than I want to pay for them. And I think with BSR, they made the pans, but they didn't actually do the enameling. They farmed that out to another company that enameled them. And there's one I've seen they're usually chrome plated. They're they say made in Detroit, Michigan. I can't remember the name. It might be Detroit Ware or something like that. And they're usually chrome plated, nickel plated, but it looks like a BSR skillet. And I'm not really sure if BSR made the skillets with their name on it and then they did the chrome plating on it and then resold them. But I've seen them around too. So some gases run hotter. Yeah, it takes a little, with MIG welding, if you're welding like stainless steel with stainless wire, I think they want straight argon. Most of your stuff, you're going to want a blend of argon and carbon dioxide. It's usually like 75% argon and 25% carbon dioxide. Then there's helium argon and straight helium, for aluminum. With different types of wires, you can use different gases. But for the most part, probably 99%, 90% of what you're doing would be an argon carbon dioxide. With the high nickel wire for welding cast iron, I've seen quite a few different recommendations actually, and most of them were for argon with 2% oxygen, which seems kind of counterintuitive that you want oxygen in there, but it would help to burn off some of the impurities in the iron and the wire. But I've also seen different argon carbon dioxide blends too. So yeah, I'm not quite sure which I'm going to go with. Probably end up going with argon, 75% argon, the rest carbon dioxide, because that's what you're going to use for most of your steel welding too. Something you might want, back to that pan that's turned blue, something you might want to do is lead test it, because if it's been used for melting lead, you're going to have it up at a temperature where you're going to start getting bluing on it. So I would definitely lead test it too before I tried using it. I just thought of that now too. I mean, in fact, I showed uh, on one of the streams one of the where I went over stuff on the Goodwill site. I showed a pan that looked like it had been pretty obviously used for lead. It was a Lodge, and you could see where it had been heated pretty intensely in the middle, and it blued the iron, and it still had lead slag residue on it, so it was pretty obvious. But yeah, if it's blued like that, it would be a good idea to get a little swab and lead test it before you start using it for food. Yeah, didn't know BSR even did enameled. Yeah, like I said, I don't think they did the actual enameling themselves, but yeah, they did do enameled. Has a Lodge enameled Dutch oven. Loves cooking roast and whole chicken too. Yeah, I really like the enameled Dutch ovens because like you can do acidic foods in them for long periods of time. Something like with a wine sauce or sauerbraten or things like that, and you're not going to have to worry about eating into your iron with something like that. I mean, acid foods are okay for fairly short cooking. If you're making like a spaghetti sauce and you just throw your spaghetti in with your pan full or your sauce in with a pan full of meat and heat it up for a while, that isn't going to hurt your seasoning or anything like that. But where you're really slow cooking something for hours and hours with something acidic, yeah, you can start stripping it off, and you don't have that problem with enameled skillets, so they're good for that sort of thing. Yeah, you did buy a test kit after that. Yeah, it's a good idea to have them. They're not terribly expensive to get the little lead test swabs. Like I said, you can usually find them at most home improvement stores, hardware stores. The Most stores seem to put them next to the smoke detectors and the mold test kits and things like that, or they might be in the paint department sometimes, but usually they're next to the smoke detectors. Yeah, it's just a little swab. You break a vial inside and you swab it on what you're testing, and it'll turn red if it has lead in it. But a lot of people are a little more paranoid than they need to be about it. But you do have to kind of watch out. And if you see a sign like something has turned blue like that because it's been hot, that could be a sign that somebody used that for melting lead at some point. And kettles you got to kind of watch out for, because a lot of times they'll get painted, and it might have been lead paint. So after you strip them off, you're going to want to test and see if it's lead paint on them. Anything interesting on the Goodwill site? Yeah, there has been a few interesting things. Some a couple of guys got really good deals on things, and some stuff went for pretty high prices. I've been saving them up. Maybe another 3 or 4 weeks or so, we'll do a Goodwill site. And I bought something over the weekend on the Goodwill site. And I'll show you that too. It should be here, depending on how the snowstorm goes. Should have it by the next show, and I'll show you that then. Got an Instapot, know nothing about it. Not gonna blow your head off. Petrified of pressure cookers. I don't know anything about Instapots, but I do know something about pressure canning pressure cookers. She does a soup with a V8 juice in the Lodge Dutch oven. That sounds pretty good. Do I have any ARC logo Lodge? Yes, I do, actually. And I think I hung that up just the other day. Let me grab that quick and I'll show it to you. I got the lid somewhere. Get all dusty. I had to dust off my lid. Yeah, I got nice little ARC logo Lodge. You can see it's got the molder mark on it. It's got a raised number on the handle and no notches in the heat ring. They made these up until the early 30s is when they started switching over to the they got rid of the name on it, and they started putting the notches in the heat ring. And that came with a lid. Got the number 8 skillet lid. The cool thing about it, you can see Lodge has pretty much always used that, straight rows of little spiky knobs for grip tips on there. And that's got a molder's mark in the middle of it there too, a W. I got that from my antique dealer, and what did I pay for that? $125 for the two of them, I think. Pretty good price. They go for, I've seen the lids alone go for over $100, just for an old Lodge skillet lid like that. This is from the 1920s is when they made that. But yeah, they're nice. Yeah, they got that kind of high dome lid. I think they made a lower dome lid too. Not positive, but I think they did. And yeah, they go for pretty good money nowadays. Not a bad price at all. Hold it up again. All right, so there's the lid again. Try to ignore the dirty spots on it there. It was cleaner than that. Number 8 skillet lid. And skillet lids usually go for a good bit more than Dutch oven lids by themselves. The skillet lids have got the ears to cover the spouts on the skillets, where Dutch oven lids are usually just round, except for BSR Dutch oven lids, because their Dutch ovens had a pour spout on one side and a tab on the other, and the ears would cover the spout on one side and the other one would just hang over the tab. And that way they only had to make one style of lid for everything. But yeah, you can see the drip tips on there and a molder's mark. And there's the skillet again. It's got a little bit of pitting right in the center, but that ain't no big deal. Got the ARC logo. You can see it's got a Y molder mark. There's that side. They still have the raised numbers on the handle. But yeah, it's a nice skillet. It's a beautiful pan. Yeah, you don't see the ARC logo. I think and there's a straight logo too that says Lodge. You don't see them very often. They're fairly scarce. And she happened to have it, and I went ahead and bought it. So, and yeah, like I said, I think it was 125, maybe 150 for the pair. which is, yeah, a really good price for either of them, much less the two of them both together. I think the Arc Lodge are your favorite. Yeah, they're really nice. I mean, like I said, you know, even in the old days, Lodge was a good bit heavier than Griswold or Wagner's the same size, but that's barely half the weight of a number 8 Lodge nowadays. Just like your number 9 bottom used up from coal, all ate up. Yeah, that's usually where it come from, was from using it over a coal fire, or sometimes you get it from coal gas too. You know, a lot of cities made, instead of natural gas, they use coal gas, and that had a lot of sulfur in it too. And it's the sulfur in the coal that does that, reacts with the iron and gets pitting. But like I said, not a whole lot on there, not real bad, but you know, that hardly matters at all on that. Got a couple of ARC logos, and they're really nice pants. Yeah, they are. I mean, I'm happy with that. That's quite the piece of iron. Yeah, stole it for that price. Yeah, I did. And then, like I said, the surface is real nice on that, nice and smooth. What's the oldest cast iron I have? Uh, Probably my Jewett and Root kettle I have. That's somewhere from 1845 up to about 1870. They made those. Then I got the waffle iron. That's from, I think the patent date on that was 1869, around there. I forget right offhand. That's that Foxell and Jones waffle iron. But anyhow, it's just about an hour, so we'll wrap it up. Yeah, the week after next, that'd be the 7th of March. You know, we'll do an open stream. Let some people in. You can show off the stuff you got, you know, some of the cool things you have. Uh, Ask questions about some of the stuff. You know, if you don't know what it is, if I don't know, somebody probably will. We'll be able to tell you, sit down, be able to tell you about what it is. Love that waffle iron. Yeah, that's cool. I can't quite reach it, but I think it's 1869 is the patent date on it. So that's pretty cool. Then I got that 1892 Wagner waffle iron. I got a lot of stuff, you know, that's around 1900. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, you know, cast iron will last you forever. And if your grandkids are worthy of inheriting it, they'll have it too. So anyway, yeah, week after next, we'll do a little bit of an open stream and do all the usual YouTube stuff, like, subscribe, share the video. Hopefully you all enjoyed yourselves, and I'll spend the next couple of days fighting the blizzard and doing winter in Wisconsin sort of things. Alrighty, y'all have a good night, and I'll see you later. Bye.